And welcome back, folks, to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. Last time we played, I think we got pretty much everyone on to be continued. I think we're missing just a few. Arosawa? Maria's still on keep out. Aki's on continued. Kano and Minorikawa. So let's do Kano. Arriving back at the Shibuya precinct, Kano hurried to the interrogation room. With the investigation currently on hold, he knew that taking any official action would be tricky. If he was going to break through the stalemate, he was going to need Tatno's help. The abduction, the ransom, the attaché case relay, Maria's release, and then Tanaka's death. Maybe Tatno would be able to figure out how all these elements were related. But first, Kano needed to check something for himself. Tatno would have never let Al-Karawan go free. Kano needed the prisoner to set the record straight. Al-Karawan sat in the precinct interrogation room looking brazen and cocksure. One glance at his face and Kano was reminded of what had happened to Sasayama. Fresh anger smoldered at the edges of his mind. There were two detectives already in the room. It seems he wasn't made privy to the details, one of them told Kano. It sounds like they were following orders, carrying that attaché case around, the other added. Kano sat across from Al-Karawan. There's something I'd like to ask you, he said. We were just paid to do a job. I don't know anything more than that. His Japanese was imperfect, but he understood the language well enough. Tell me, how did you manage to escape from Detective Tatno? Escape? I didn't. A faint smile came from Al-Karawan's lips. That's not faint. He let me go free. Liar! Detective Tatno would never do that. Kano slammed the desk with his fist. I didn't have handcuffs on, did I? He took them off for me. This had to be a lie. Not like there weren't other ways to remove a pair of handcuffs. After he took off the handcuffs, Al-Karawan continued. He pointed his gun at me. Got the grab! Kano grabbed the prisoner by the collar. But Al-Karawan went on, unperturbed. He kept the gun pointed at me, but he didn't pull the trigger. So that's when I ran. Why would Detective Tatno want to shoot you? Because I saw him. Saw him? Saw him do what? Let me tell you something interesting, Al-Karawan said, sardonically. There was that girl who was carrying the ransom, right? Kano pictured Hitomi standing anxiously beside the statue of Hachiko. That guy Tatno was trying to kill her. In a fit of rage, Kano drove his fist into Al-Karawan's face. His colleagues rushed to interpose themselves. Kano, calm down! Knocked to the floor, Al-Karawan gingerly fingered his split lip. And after I gave you such good info, too, he grumbled. Detective Tatno was assigned to protect Hitomi Osawa, Kano shouted. You can't expect me to believe your rubbish. He lunged around the table, ready to throw another punch, but his fellow detectives held him back. Al-Karwan looked away indifferently. It's your Detective Tatno you should be arresting, not me. That girl's gonna get killed. You need to step in line, pal, Kano bellowed. Kano, his colleague shouted. You're the one who needs to step in line. Go and cool off for a bit. You're out of line, detective. Give me your badge. Expelled from the interrogation room, Kano immediately pulled out his cell phone and called Tatno's number. Please pick up. He clutched his phone tight, pleading under his breath. But Tatno didn't answer. Kano sat down in a chair in the hallway in a bit of a daze. He found himself holding the present Sasayama had gotten for his wife. I have to do something. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. His restlessness gnawed at him like a rabid animal. Hey, Kano. He looked up to see Kuze standing beside him, his expression grave. I have an update on Sasayama, the director began. Kano swallowed the lump in his throat. Seems the knife went deep enough to do some organ damage. He's in critical condition. I see. Kano bit his lip hard. His handkerchief, red with Sasayama's blood, clung to the wrapping paper of Sasayama's present. Kano peeled it away carefully, so as to not tear the paper beneath. What's that? Kuze asked Kuze. Sasayama had me hold on to this for him. It's a present for his wife. I see. I'm sorry, Director Kuze, for ignoring your orders. Kano's eyes remained fixed on the gift as he spoke. When you get down to it, none of this would have happened if it weren't for me. Some kind of punishment was surely headed his way for acting alone as he had. He probably wasn't getting out of this one with a simple written apology. What is a written apology? Well, when public servants are negligent in their duties or violate regulations, they can be punished with a warning, a formal reprimand, a reduction in pay, suspension, or dismissal. In case of a warning, in addition to the remonstration from a direct supervisor, the individual must also submit a formal letter explaining the relevant details and assuring it won't happen again. But Kuze calmly shook his head. What happened to Sasayama isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself, he said. As far as this case goes, I've been given quite the runaround myself. There was a rare note of vulnerability in Kuze's voice. The higher-ups have barely let any information trickle my way, but they're still ordering me around non-stop. It's a real pain in the A. Kuze fell silent, ruminating. The quiet lingered between the two men for several moments before he abruptly spoke again. All right. I'd like to get your opinion on something. So Mamoru Tanaka, who we found in the minivan, you know? What you think? Should we ought to maybe release his name to the media? Kuze had slipped into his childish register. He was clearly exhausted. Why was he exhausted? Well, after dealing with the kidnappers, baffling actions, and too much meddling from the higher-ups, even a veteran like Kuze is just beat. But that's not the only reason for his exhaustion. Kuze has a brother, 6 years his senior, who despite being nominally mature refuses to get a real job and shows no inclination to settle down with a family. He walks around town all day after day, dressed like a hippie and treating passerbys to songs he's written. Kuze has been worrying about his shiftless brother for years now. The guy's become a chronic source of consternation. Oh no! Oh no! It's getting too real. Kano was thrown by the question. It was a rare thing for the director to seek an opinion from a mere junior detective. It feels like there's something not too normal about one of Kenji Osawa's subordinates dying. Kuze went on. Kano had the same thought. This felt too intentional to be a coincidence. So here's the question. Should I get the media involved and try to rush for a resolution, or should I be more cautious? What would you do? About releasing the name? Kano asked. That wasn't such a simple thing to answer. There were so many factors to consider. A tired smile came to Kuze's face. Don't think about it so hard. This is just so I have a point of reference. Tell me what your gut says. I think releasing the name should be all right. I think we should hold back for now. I can't make that decision, sir. Kuze rumbled. We still don't know if Mamoru Tanaka was murdered or if he committed suicide, Kano pointed out. We should at least wait until we know that much. This case had so many loose ends that could lead in dangerous directions. It would pay to be as prudent as possible. Kuze paused for a moment and thought, then nodded. I see what you mean. All right, then. You know? I wonder. Because if the media releases the name of Tanaka that got killed in the van, then that would affect Aki's route. Because it's not Maria. What was her name again? The other girl, the sister. She was texting him. Hitomi, yeah, that's right. Hitomi was texting him, so. On the TV, the governor's press conference was still going on. I have just requested that each of the railroad companies, starting with JR, stop running trains through Shibuya Station until further notice. As far as the roads go, Route 246 has already been closed to traffic. The executive looked pale as he spoke to the crowd. Is there any possibility of a bioterrorist attack? What about the people who are still in Shibuya? Reporters unleashed a barrage of questions. The governor's face scrunched up. As I've already made clear, this is not a complete blockade. What is a complete blockade? Well, because modern Japan does not have a system for enacting martial law, there are few ways that the government could effectively quarantine Shibuya. In the case of a potential viral infection, the infectious disease law allows for the city to be partitioned into areas of restricted movement. The authorities do not want to acknowledge the existence of the top-secret UA virus, however. Taking such an action would be rather tricky legally. There's nothing to stop anyone from leaving Shibuya on foot. Is that what you're describing, de facto martial law? Spat one reporter. Of course not, the governor snapped. You should be well aware that martial law is illegal. What about the mental shutdown attacks? That's the wrong game. I couldn't even declare it if I wanted to. If you wanted to. So this is a bioterrorist issue then. I never said anything of the sort. The press conference is devolving into chaos. Kano was unsurprised given the circumstances. Still, everyone was doing their best insofar as they knew how. So why not me, Kano thought. Oh no, Kano's at his lowest right now. Doesn't matter what I do. I just want to be doing something. Just letting the time tick by without trying to take action was more than he can bear. Kano began to worry about Rumi and decided to give her a call. Was worried about Sasayama and decided to visit him in the hospital. Thought about Sasayama's wife and decided to get in touch with her. I am thinking hospital. Hospital, because we might run into Aki. So let's not do that, okay? The wife? Kano thought about Sasayama's wife and decided to get in touch with her. Called Sasayama's home, but nobody picked up. Perhaps she'd gone to the hospital? With that in mind, Kano called up Shibuya Central Hospital and asked them to transfer him to Miss Sasayama. After a little while, a woman's voice came through the receiver. Yes, this is Mrs. Sasayama. Her voice was thin and reedy. My name is Shinya Kano. I work with your husband on the force. What happened? He didn't know what to say. He couldn't find the words. I wish I had been there. When he'd gone to make that arrest, he blurted out at last. I should have tried to get in there and back him up sooner. If I hadn't been too late. He trailed off, hoping he hadn't said too much. Sasayama's wife answered in her gentle, quivering voice. Quivering? Thank you so much for your concern. I'm glad my husband is lucky enough to have a colleague like you. No, I couldn't. I married a detective, Mr. Kano. I prepared myself for the possibility that something like this might happen. But she certainly didn't sound like she was prepared. Kano felt a biting pain in his chest. Your husband gave me something to hold on to you. Hold on for you. I would like to give it to you if I can. Oh, well, certainly, but I'd like to stay here by his side today if possible. Of course. I'll head on over to the hospital myself then. I hope you don't mind if I pay a visit. Oh, of course not. Sorry to trouble you like this. Thank you so much. Kano hung up, then hurried out of the precinct. Little girl. As he was making his way towards the hospital, Kano spotted a girl sitting on the pedestrian overpass. Looks like she was on the verge of tears. Concerned, he stopped beside her. Are you waiting for someone? He asked. The girl simply bit her lip and said nothing. Are you lost? Do you need a policeman? What is a policeman? Relatively low crime rate in Japan, combined with a rather high police personnel numbers in Tokyo, mean that the officers, particularly beat cops, often have plenty of bandwidth to deal with more minor issues. Again, the girl gave no answer. Where did you come from? Kano tried, still nothing. He had just decided to go and call for a female officer when the girl hesitatingly spoke at last. Heaven Publishing. After a little coaxing, she told him where that was. Turned out it was on the way to Shibuya Central Hospital, not too far from where they were now. Why don't I take you there then? Kano said. I'm already headed to that direction anyways. The girl seemed a bit reluctant at first, but eventually she agreed to go with Kano. Kano parted ways with the girl outside of the building where Heaven Publishing was located. He noticed that she hesitated to enter at first, but eventually she vanished inside. Kano's phone rang as he was about to continue on his way. When he peered at the incoming call display, his heart nearly stopped. It was Tatno's name. Kano quickly pressed the button to accept the call. Detective Tatno? Detective Tatno, is that you? There was a whole mountain of things Kano wanted to ask. Just what had he been doing this whole time? Why did he let Al Karawan go free? And what happened to Hitomi? But while he was trying to decide what question to pose first, Tatno spoke. I've secured Maria Osawa. What? The word came out as a startled gasp. Detective Tatno, you have to bring her here ASAP. Right now she's... Tatno cut him off. You need to bring Hitomi Osawa to my location at once. Hitomi Osawa? Yes. I heard over the wireless that the man from the US Embassy had her in custody. Kano hadn't been listening to the most recent wireless traffic. Apparently, Stanley had managed to find Hitomi. But what was Tatno getting at here? Wait, hold on. What for? I mean, why do you need me to bring Hitomi Osawa to you? There was no reply. Detective Tatno, answer me, please. Tatno replied as if he hadn't heard Kano's questions. There's an office building in Nanpeidai called South Hill. I'll be waiting for you on the rooftop. If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria. What? With that grisly warning, he hung up. Kano's hand went limp. His phone slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor. Not the cute one. Well, they're twins, so they should be both of them. Kano went to South Hill in Nanpedia alone. Peidai. South Hill. The building takes its name from a rough translation of Nanpeidai, the name of the area where it's located. The official name is South Hill Building, but since this is awkward to say, it's frequently shortened. Nanpeidai. He hadn't brought Hitomi as Tatno had demanded, nor had he reported the situation to Kuze. First, he wanted to meet with Tatno and find out what was going on. He took the elevator to the 8th floor. After that, he had to take the stairs to the rooftop. As he made his way up the steps, he tried to imagine what Tatno might want with Hitomi. He hadn't noticed anything suspicious about the senior detective in the lead-up to the stakeout at the Scramble. Tatno had seemed like the same man Kano had always revered. So why was he doing this? Kano couldn't think of a reason. Reaching the top of the staircase, he at last stepped out onto the open roof. Time for half-baked conjecture was past. Kano would lay his doubts at Tatno's feet, and soon enough everything would become clear. Inwardly, Kano did his best to convince himself of that. A warm breeze blew against his cheek. He looked around but saw no sign of Tatno. Detective Tatno, where are you? Getting no response, he began to walk around the rooftop, calling out several more times. It's Kano, I've come as you asked. Where's Hitomi Osawa? Kano whirled around when he heard the voice behind him. What? Why is she blindfolded? Tatno stepped into view from behind a water tank. Is he working for the Empire? What is this music? He led with him a young woman, bound and blindfolded. Why didn't you bring her? He growled. Kano stared in shock. Detective Tatno, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria? Maria? Jump! hear a faint voice, and I realize that the man is listening to a wireless radio. I've managed to secure Hitomi Osawa at Shibuya Central Hospital, the voice says. A gleam comes to the gun man's eyes. He pulls his cell phone from his jacket and hurriedly makes a call. I've secured Maria Osawa, he said to whoever's on the other end. Huh? Maria Osawa? Is my name Maria Osawa? You need to bring Hitomi Osawa to my location at once. Hitomi Osawa. If I'm Maria Osawa, what sort of relationship do I have with Hitomi? If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria. And my captor hangs up. Were you just serious right now? My voice wavers uncontrollably. What do you mean you'll kill me? Don't look at me like that. He steps in closer to me, his expression dangerous. That killer's edge that he'd lost during our little talk is back in full force. Just bear with me a little longer. He blindfolds my eyes with some sort of towel. I can't see through it at all. Just then, I hear Kanan's voice inside my head. My memories are like shards of broken glass tumbling through my mind, all out of sequence. How were you able to do that when the string was so tangled up? Oh, once you know the trick to it, you can do it with your eyes closed. I'm showing Kanan how to do a cat's cradle. She reaches out for the string. Huh? She doesn't get hold of it quite right. What gives? Despite her efforts, the string gets all jumbled up. Oh, not like that, I say. Hook your index fingers through the front part of the string. I get that. Kanan's getting irritated. But after giving it a few more tries, she finally manages to pull it off. There we go, she says. Look at that. Seeing her innocent little smile bolsters my own spirits. That's neat. Thanks for teaching me. Oh, it's nothing special. Here, as thanks, let me teach you some skills to help protect yourself. Okay, so learn how to do a cat's cradle. And the other is, here's some jujitsu. I'll take that any day of the week. Abruptly, my memory jumps forward a bit. Kanan has been training me in some form of self-defense. What is self-defense? Well, it's techniques for protecting oneself when attacked. Rather than defeating the opponent, self-defense training generally prioritizes simply getting oneself away from danger. Some people consider behavioral tenets, such as run away when you're attacked or don't go near dangerous places, to be some forms of self-defense as well. Don't overthink it, she says. People will either try to punch you, kick you, or grab you. If you can stay ready for those three things, you'll be able to take it from there. She demonstrates some defensive movements as I watch. I follow suit, doing my best to mimic her. Okay, let's do this. Kanan throws a punch at me. I dodge, grab her by the wrist, and give her her arm a hard twist. Incredibly, she goes whirling through the air. She lands nimbly on her feet, a little grin coming to her face. She's a ninja. Nicely done, she says. I stare down at my own hand. Did I really just do that? Once you repeat the movements enough, your body will treat them like second nature. I do as she says, trying to repeat the movements over and over. At first it feels like a silly gimmick, but eventually I can feel the motions growing smoother. There you go. People like those thugs we met before won't get the drop on you again. Thugs? Now my memories zip further back into the past. Oh, we're going back. Get the clock. I'm wandering the streets trying to get back to my hotel, but I got lost. By the time I realized I'd wandered into some dodgy back streets, I was already surrounded by people giving me threatening looks. They must have been thugs, looking for tourists to rob. If they had caught me, I'm not sure I would have made it out alive. But they hadn't. Kaden had seen to that. Thank you so much for what you did. Thank you so much for what you did for me, Master Jedi. I didn't want there to be a scene here, Kanan said bluntly as she surveys the aftermath of the thug's attack. That's all. I'd happened to be right underneath her apartment window when I was nearly abducted. Bit by bit, my memories of Kanan are starting to resurface. Just a little more. Just a little more and I'll have myself back, I'm sure of it. Detective Totno, where are you? A man's voice suddenly snaps me back into the moment. Snaps me back into reality. Oh, there goes gravity. It's Kano. I've come as you asked. The gunman grabs me by the arm and yanks me to my feet. Where's Hitomi Osawa? He snarls. Why didn't you bring her here? Detective Totno, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria? My captor removes my blindfold. The blimp. The first thing I see is a huge blimp drifting slowly by overhead. Huh? I'm sure I've seen it before. And pretty recently at that. A blimp. There's a flash of revelation inside my head, like a dam bursting. My memories come flooding back to me. Last night, I was at a party, a sort of mixer with the exchange students. Someone was plotting to use this party as an opportunity to abduct my sister, Hitomi. And so I told Hitomi that the party started an hour later than it really did. I had a plan to let myself get abducted in Hitomi's place. Of course, the idea wasn't just to let myself get kidnapped. The necklace I wore was outfitted with a tiny GPS. Wherever I happened to be taken, Kanan would be able to track my location. What we didn't count on, though, was that my necklace getting torn off. What we didn't count on was my necklace getting torn off when I was attacked. I managed to grab hold of it, but when I hit my head when I was being shoved into the car, it slipped from my grasp. I'm not sure how far we drove after that. In my fuzzy memories, I recall gazing blearily out of the car window. Aya Kamiki. What could it mean? How about something more secure like a bracelet, yeah, or a watch? That's when I saw the blimp right after we parked. Yes, it went fine. There was a man talking to someone on a cell phone. All right, I'll shut her up inside the storeroom. I'll be waiting in the room upstairs. The man dragged me out of the car and shoved me into some dark storeroom. Then, I guess for good measure, he hit me on the head again. Concussion. Bonk. That's right. There's more of it coming back to me now. Back when I was doing my Jedi training in the Middle East. You spent your life living in a country at peace in Japan. You possibly couldn't understand me. Kanan again. So it's not like she and I became fast friends right away or anything. The two of us were just too different in a lot of ways. We're not so different, you and I. Where do you draw the line? What would you protect with your life? What does justice mean to you? A forlorn look came to her face whenever Kanan asked me a new question. I never had a good answer for any of them. My flimsy grasp on my own personal identity made it hard for us to get along, yet I kept visiting Kanan's place for the duration of my trip. I recall doing the cat's cradle there at the table one time when we didn't have anything in particular to talk about. Her eyes had gone wide when she saw me deftly manipulating the strings with my fingers. It's like you're manipulating fate. Who taught you how to do that? She said. My mother. My real mother, that is. Kanan furrowed her brow. What do you mean, real? As opposed to my stepmother, I mean, my birth mother died after getting really sick. I was only 5 years old, so I don't remember her that well. I see, Kanan said. Her expression remained unchanged. What about your parents, Kanan? I don't have any. Orphan. They died during the war. The bluntness of her response made my hands stop. The strings still stretched between them. Sensing that we were treading on some serious ground, I hurried to change the subject. Do you have any friends? No, only online friends. Well, I used to have one. Her use of the past tense made me fear the worst, and I was right. He was killed too. By an arms dealer named Alphard. Alphard. Her tone was dry, matter of fact. Taking revenge for his death is my sole purpose in life. Despite the gravity of her words, her face was an unreadable mask. She seemed almost incapable of human emotion. So, what sort of person is this Alfred? A destructionist who masquerades as a terrorist. Destructionist? That sure wasn't a term that came up a lot in Japan. He's a terrorist with a subclass of destruction, which we call destructionist. Alphard doesn't believe in God and holds no political ideology. He follows the masquerade. The chaos and destruction is just to earn money in order to carry out more terrorist acts. So you're saying this Alphard commits terrorism because it's fun? Kanan nodded. That's why every now and then Alfred changes loyalties. Just when you think you've found ties to some Middle Eastern terrorist organization, turns out the job was for the American CIA. Wait, what? Huh? Wait, what? Let me reread that. That's why every now and then Alfred changes loyalties. Just when you think you found ties to some Middle Eastern terrorist organization, it turns out the job was for the American CIA. Huh. Yeah, they're really dogging the CIA in this game. What the heck? So Alfred stands for nothing? Kanan smiled dismissively at my little childish outburst. Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know, terrorists, the CIA is basically the same thing. It's basically the same thing. I couldn't help but feel a bit patronized. Whoa, look at that. Cradle. I twiddled my fingers, turning my cat's cradle into a bridge. No, bridge cradle. Is Maria based? Based on what? Kanan's eyes fixed right back on the string. A tiny surge of pride replaced my annoyance. She went quiet, watching closely as I worked my fingers. Man, if she's impressed by the string, just get a game on your cell phone. Just put on a mobile game. The tension in the room faded as the silence between us lengthened. My stepmother is the sort of person who couldn't do this sort of thing, I said at last. For some reason, I had a sudden urge to talk about my personal life. I guess she cares about herself more than looking after her children. She's not a bad person, though. She gives me weird bits of advice, like telling me to find someone to date, or that a woman's life is defined by a man. But it's not like I hate her or anything. Would you mind teaching me? Teaching me what? How to be a woman? Kanan asked softly. What? How to find... That's what I said. How to find a guy to date? The date? Oh boy. No. Oh. She shook her head. She pointed to the cat's cradle strung between my fingers. Oh, yeah, it's doing little simple magic tricks, and she's like, whoa. I'm gonna remove my thumb now, Kanan. What? Mind blown. Oh, you mean this? You know, there's gotta be more fun things to do than, you know, be beneath a staircase with a bit of string in the Middle East, right? So I took her by the hand and started to teach her the cat's cradle. Hey, do you mind if I ask you something? I said after a while. What's that? That friend you mentioned earlier. What was he like? Kanan's fingers went still. It's better if you don't ask. If I tell you, you won't want to come here anymore. It's not true, I insisted. Even though I'm a terrorist? What? One who uses fear and violence to attain political objectives. The term has its origins in the Reign of Terror in the 18th century France, known in French as La Terreur. She replied curtly. I swallowed a sudden lump in my throat, unable to find words. We fight for righteousness, but you people call us terrorists. Is this anti-American? I feel like this game is anti-American. Am I crazy? In the religious sense, the state of being virtuous, free of sin, and observant of the proper rules of moral conduct. Not the same as being in the right, though many people equate the two. You people? What's she talking about? Am I wrong? She cast a quick look on my face. But I mean, you protected me. My voice wavered as I replied. All I did was take down some thugs. I didn't want them around. What could I say to that? I just stammered. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Huh? Kaden flashed me another slight, condescending grin. I was just joking. Don't worry about it. I'm not a terrorist. I'm just working for the CIA. But I didn't get the sense that everything she said was a joke. Even if calling herself a terrorist was an exaggeration, the world Kanan lived in was unquestionably a dangerous one. I could tell that from the cold look in her eyes. A look you'd never expect from an ordinary teenage girl. But she wasn't ordinary, was she? Because she's a ninja. Just what sort of hardship had she endured to acquire that deadly stare? Having lived all my life in peaceful Japan, I could scarcely imagine. Kanan tried and failed several times to get the cat's cradle right, but she didn't give up. She worked fastidiously by herself, fingers continuing to shift awkwardly about. Okay, here we go. You know, for someone so agile, why is she so bad with her fingers? She hooked the string around her fingers and spread her palms. But the string shape just collapsed into a jumbled mess. Confound it. Okay, one more time. You can make this into a game with two people, you know. I plucked the strings from Kanan's hands. Can love truly bloom on the battlefield? You pass the string back and forth. Why don't we try that? It's more fun than doing it by yourself. Wrap the string around my fingertips. What do you say? Want to give it a go? Kanan looked dubious, looking for the dubs. The intricately intertwined strings were like the world in a way. What had started as a single thread was now something that couldn't be undone just by pulling on it. This is stupid. Ban custom. Yeah, I don't think we have a choice. I held my hands out, twirling the string around my fingers. Kanan took the pattern from me and spread her palms apart. Wow, she made a bridge. She made a perfect bridge between her hands, and really that bridge represents our friendship between peaceful Japan and Middle Eastern country at war. The shy grin that came from her face made her finally look like a normal girl. I followed suit with a childish little laugh of my own. Between us and the CIA. And as if in a blaze of sunshine, the fog that had been hanging over my mind finishes receding. I remember everything. My name is Maria Osawa. My sister is Hitomi Osawa, and I've got a gun to my head. And Kanan, she's a dear friend who I met in a far-off land. She helped me once, and now it's my turn to help her. I close my eyes as I reflect upon these precious memories, all the dearer for having been lost. Now, when I try to picture Kanan, I can do so clearly. It's just as I thought before. My memories are what make me who I am, and I would never choose to forget them. I feel almost as if time had stopped for me while my history was gone, and now it started moving again. She's gonna get shot for sure. This is too much. I'm finally back to being me. And I have to go. I have to go back there one more time. Gotta get the band back together. And? What? End of her story. And? Yeah, she's getting shot. It's freaking music. Tatno responded by removing the young woman's blindfold. There was no doubt about it. She looked very much like Hitomi Osawa. A surge of frustration rushed through Kano. Detective Tatno, what is the meaning of this? Kano fought to remain calm. He felt like he was on the verge of falling to pieces. Bring me Hitomi Osawa and I'll let this girl go. Why? What do you need Hitomi for? But Tatno's only answer was an icy stare. This isn't like you. It's so weird. The Detective Tatno I know. Who do you know? Tatno cut him off. What do you know about me? I know what sort of detective you are, sir, because I've modeled myself after you for my whole career. The older man's expression remained stony. Don't you remember, Kano went on? That time when you risked your life to talk down that man who barricaded himself inside that office? Ever since then, you've been my... Tatno interrupted him with a sudden burst of laughter. You really are gullible, you know that? You can only see things the way you want to see them. What do you mean by that? The truth is, I didn't even care if I died doing what I did. That's why I doused myself in gasoline. Tatno's voice had gone low and quiet. That was no display of heroics. It was more attempted suicide than anything else. What? I wasn't thinking about the other people still inside the building. It was just a coincidence. Things turned out the way they did. So if you had made a single misstep, then everyone in that building might as well have burned to death. You're lying! That can't be true! Kano shook his head insistently. I don't have time for this conversation. Tatno pressed the barrel of his gun to Maria's head. Maria! She really is our... Yeah? You had a bender the night before. If you don't bring Hitomi Osawa to me, believe me, I'll blow her brains out. Please stop this, Kano shouted. But there was no hesitation in Kano's eyes. He looked like he would really shoot Maria if Kano didn't do as he asked. Hurry up! Bring Hitomi to me. Can't she at least tell me what's going on? Go now, or so help me, I'll shoot. Kano drew his own gun from his jacket. I know you, Detective Tatno. I know there's some meaning behind all of this. Kano's words came out as an imploring croak. You think you can shoot me? Tatno spat. Letting Aral Karawan go free, taking Maria hostage. This has to mean something. Sweat made Kano's hands slick where he clutched his gun. I asked if you think you can shoot me. I've always looked up to you. You were the sort of detective I wanted to become. Kano's view of Tatno began to blur as tears welled in his eyes. Can you shoot me, Kano? I can. Even as he cried, Kano stood resolutely, doing his best to stare down the older man. He set his finger squarely on the trigger and pointed his gun at Tatno's forehead. Suddenly, the piercing stare vanished from the other detective's eyes. I've got to give you full marks for that, Kano. Tatno smiled thinly. I'll tell you then. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. It all happened 17 years ago. A meth addict had assaulted someone in Shibuya. Tatno was questioning people around Dogenzaka in search of the perp. It happened to pass by Endo Electronics. Oh, hey, Tatno. It was Kotone Endo, clad in pristine white. Clutched to her breast was her daughter, Suzune, only a few months old. It's been a long time, Kotone said. She flashed a tiny smile. Yeah, it has, Tatno replied with a clumsy smile of his own. Are you on the job? Yep. Yes, I am. Tatno recoiled slightly at the dour look on Tatno's face. Is something the matter? There's an armed criminal hiding out somewhere in the area. What? I wouldn't leave the shop for a while if you can avoid it, but I have to go to the bank to deposit some money. Surely you can have Daisuke go do it. He's away on a repair job and hasn't come back yet. Tatno let out a one-note sigh. Oh, I see. Daisuke still does things his own way. All right, let me escort you to the bank. You mean it? I'd feel a lot safer having you with me. Kotone flashed him a smile so wide that Tatno thought he might lose himself in it. Tatno, Kotone, and Daisuke were childhood friends and had gone to school together up through high school. Tatno and Daisuke were always clowning around each other. And Kotone was always there, alongside them, laughing. It had been quite some time since he'd gotten to walk along Dogenzaka with Kotone. So how have you been lately? Well, with a newborn to look after, it's been pretty hectic. But there's never a dull moment. Things have been good. Glad to hear it. Kotone was always bright as a sunflower. Sometimes Tatno managed to convince himself that just the sight of her was enough. Outside the bank, Kotone held Suzune out to him. Tatno received the baby with an anxious frown. What's with the face? I'm not good with babies. I haven't held one very often. Oh, you'll be fine, don't worry. Just hold on to her for a minute while I take care of things inside. Alright. He held the baby gingerly. It like it was a bomb that might explode at any moment. That's how I hold babies. I'm like, Kotone chuckled softly. Suzune stirred and squirmed in Tatno's arms. She kind of has Kotone's eyes, he thought. It was strange, the sensation of holding a child. She was so soft and light, and yet such a real and responsive presence. The faint warmth of her body warmed Tatno inwardly in turn. When Kotone returned after making her deposit, they strolled back to a nearby park, Suzune back in her mother's arms. Do you have any plans for marriage, Tatno? I haven't thought about it. Work has me plenty busy. No, that's just an excuse, Kotone said. If there really were some woman you wanted to marry, you wouldn't let work stop you. And I suppose it's because there hasn't been anyone I've felt that way about. Really? Nobody this whole time? Yeah, really. I see. But still, seeing the two of you like this makes me realize how nice having a family could be. Tatno peered deeply into Suzune's face. Well, if it ain't Tatno. He looked up as a cheery voice cut into the conversation. It was Daisuke. What are you doing here? He asked his wife. I could ask you the same question. Come on, give me a break. I've come to make the deposit for the client. In that case, no need to worry, I just took care of it myself. I thought you'd forgotten about it. Oh, really? Katone smiled as Daisuke reached down and carefully lifted Suzune in his arms. Beaming happily at his daughter, he nuzzled up against her tiny cheek. Daisuke, long time no see. Yeah, glad you're doing well for yourself, Tatno. They walked side by side. Daisuke proudly showed off Suzune's drowsing face. What do you think? Adorable, isn't she? Yeah, luckily she doesn't have your looks. Hey! Hey now. Bad-mouthing me the same as ever, huh? Some things hadn't changed since high school. Why not drop by our place for a bit? Daisuke offered. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a job actually. Tatno turned to glance at Katone. Uh-oh! Knife? Is that a plaster knife? What is that? An instant later, Daisuke screamed, Katone! The man had come up behind his wife and now held a kitchen knife to her throat. Knife to see ya. Katone stood stiffly, frozen in terror. Let her go! Tatno took a step towards the man. The slightly upturned eyes, the closed cropped hair, the thin mustache. All the details matched the description. This had to be the man Tatno was after. Shut your damn mouth! You want to try and kill me, huh? This lady here wants to try to kill me! The man was babbling nonsense. The report said that the suspect was a tweaker. Right now, his mind was probably a complete mess from meth withdrawal. Left unchecked, there was no telling what he might do. Tatno shoved Daisuke behind him and drew his gun from his jacket. Wait, don't shoot! You'll hit Katone! But Tatno ignored Daisuke's shouts and trained his gun on the perp's shoulder. He was confident in his marksmanship. He'd never miss at this range. Tatno, please back down! Daisuke pleaded, Suzune still clutched in his arms. I beg you! I can't, Tatno hissed under his breath. This isn't someone we can reason with. The assailant began waving his knife about. He could stab it into Katone at any moment. Tatno had to make the shot now. He aimed for the shoulder of the arm the man held his knife in. Tatno, stop! Daisuke shouted. Don't do this! I think Daisuke is gonna bump Tatno. For a brief moment, Tatno's eyes met Katone's. He thought he saw her give a tiny nod. Don't shoot! Oh, if the knife falls on her, that would be... No! It was all over in an instant. By the time Tatno had the perp subdued, Katone's white shirt was soaked through with red. With Katone's death, so too died Tatno's heart. Whatever feelings had lived inside him had been reduced to cinders, leaving only a never-ending need to atone. Atone for Katone. Countless times he had thought of ending his life in order to make things up for Daisuke and his children. The only reason he didn't go through with it was that he knew death would be the easy way out. And so he stayed on as a detective. He would carry the weight of his sins with him as long as he lived. This was the sentence Tatno gave himself. "15 years had passed since Katone's death. For the first time, Tatno had gone to visit her grave. He was standing by the grave marker with his hands clasped when someone called out to him from behind, "Excuse me." A slender young girl stood there, flowers in hand. Tatno instantly recognized her, Suzune. Wait, is he trying to kill Hitomi for Suzune? And her father's in it. Oh boy! Tatno instantly recognized her, Suzune. She looked just like Katone had back in her high school days. "Did you know my mother?" she asked. Yes, we were classmates a long time ago." "Oh, really? Thank you so much for coming." Suzune gave a slight bow, then glazed up at Tatno with her big, bright eyes. You look just like her." Tatno struggled to hold back the tears. He felt as if Katone stood before him, returned to life. "My father tells me the same thing all the time. I'm sure once you're all grown up, you'll be just as beautiful as she was." A forlorn smile came to Suzune's face. "Since I'm grown up, well, I don't think that's gonna happen." I guess I really do have a lot in common with my mother, including the part where I'm going to die young. What the hell? Don't be ridiculous, Tatno exclaimed. Why would you say such a horrible thing? Yes, I know, but why would she say that to some random guy? Suzune took a step backward, looking shocked to be rebuked by a stranger. My apologies, I didn't mean to startle you. No, it's all right, Suzune murmured, clutching the flowers close. Honestly, it's not something I like to talk about. You just mentioned it to a perfect stranger. But I'm sick, so there's not really anything I can do to change it. Sick of this world. I have a heart condition. What is the heart condition? Well, it's a generic expression for illnesses pertaining to the heart, also referred to as heart disease. It includes things like heart failure, valvular heart disease, and so forth. A transplant is the only thing that can help me, but my blood type is a little weird, and it doesn't look like they'll be able to find a compatible donor. What is compatible? Well, the immune system exists to get rid of foreign substances in the body. Often, a patient's immune system will attack a transplanted organ, which can result in the organ failing or functioning poorly. To mitigate the risk of rejection, it is preferable for the donor and the recipient to have matching body tissue. In the case of a heart transplant, characteristics such as blood type and pre-sensitized antibodies, human leukocyte antigens, must be screened ahead of time. Then, bowing her head, Suzune stepped in front of the gravestone and clasped her hands in silence. Tatno felt a wrenching pain inside him, as if Katone were being taken from him all over again. If there really was a god, why would he do such dreadful things? Is there nothing I can do? He nearly lamented aloud. I'll do anything, Suzune. I'll do whatever I have to in order to save you. Tatno clenched his fists as he stared at the grave. Tell me, Kotone, what can I possibly do for your daughter? Please tell me, please. And so the months rolled on. Everything changed just after 10 o'clock that morning. Tatno was on the stakeout when his cell phone rang. He glanced at the call display and saw Daisuke Endo's name. I hadn't heard from Daisuke in years now. Fearing something had happened to Suzune, Tatno answered the call despite his current tense circumstances. At once, he heard Daisuke wailing. Suzune had a seizure. She might not come back from this one. Tatno's terrible suspicions had been right on the mark. He felt himself growing weak. Please, Daisuke exclaimed. You need to shoot that girl you're with. That Hitomi Osawa. You need to shoot her in the head. If we have her heart, we can save Suzune. At first, Tatno couldn't make sense of what Daisuke was saying. Hurry up and shoot. Shoot her, please. Hitomi Osawa has the Bombay blood type. Wait, hold on. Tatno said, keeping his voice low. You want me to kill Hitomi Osawa? Why? He quickly scanned the area. Daisuke, are you nearby? Wait, where are you? Don't worry about that. If you can just render her brain dead, we can transplant her heart into Suzune. The term brain dead refers to a state where the entire brain, including the brainstem, is beyond any recovery. In Japan, brain death is defined by Article 6 of the Act of the Organ Transplantation, which states that brain death can only be declared with the goal of authorizing a transplant, and is subject to the judgment of at least 2 doctors inspecting the patient according to a preset process at least 6 hours apart. Shooting someone in the head, that doesn't necessarily guarantee they'd wind up brain dead. And even assuming it did, if Tatno shot the Osawa girl here in the middle of the scramble, it would cause a giant incident. By the time the autopsy was completed, the window for a heart transplant would surely have passed. Tatno, shoot her, please! Daisuke, I can't. You know I can't do that. Hurry! It was like his old friend wasn't even listening to him. Look, even if she did wind up brain dead, they wouldn't be able to perform a transplant. But Daisuke kept shouting, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'll make the transplant work somehow. He'll make it work. Even knowing how ridiculous that was, part of Tatno wanted to know what he had in mind, if anything. I finally found it. I finally found something we can do for Suzune. Please, please help me help her. Tatno understood Daisuke's feelings painfully as well. To be helpless. To stop the suffering of someone you loved. Nothing in the world hurt as much as that. I want to save Suzune, Tatno. This is the one thing I will ever ask of you. Yeah. Tatno, it's just a little thing, bro. Just shoot her in the head. Why are you not doing this for me? Dog, thought we were tight. Just shoot her. Tatno could hear choked weeping from the other side of the line. And at that sound, something inside him shifted. Yes, Daisuke was right. The likelihood of transplant happening wasn't the issue. What mattered was that right now he could take action. He could do something for Suzune. He mustered up his resolve, feeling the doubt lift from his heart. For Suzune. I must take a life to give a life. For the daughter of the woman he'd love. Tatno checked the gun tucked inside his jacket and slowly began making his way through the crowd towards Hitomi. Now you know why we're here. Tatno gestured subtly with his gun, its barrel still pressed against Maria's temple. Kano's own gun wavered in his hands. He was crying inside. There was nothing else he wanted to hear from Tatno now. And now he was sure of one thing. Words were never going to stop this man. Kano, Tatno said. At my age, I've seen all sorts of young detectives come and go. He fixed his lonesome gaze on Kano. And you're about the worst of the lot. Whenever it's time to take action, you immediately do something reckless. Do you know how many formal apologies I had to write because of you? Tatno let out a heavy sigh. But you know, Kano, because of the way you looked up to me, you saved me. And that's the truth. He sounded like a man speaking his last words. Now come on, see if you can stop me. He pressed the gun harder against Maria's temple. Kano took aim at his former hero's head. Detective Tatno. His finger wavered on the trigger. Shoot him. You have to shoot him. If you don't shoot him, Maria's going to die. He tried desperately to convince himself. I'm going to stop you. Tatno looked him coldly in the eye. Do it then. Shoot me! Kano stared right back. He tightened his finger on the trigger. To be continued? You can't do me like that. And he shot Maria. He's gonna go off. We already seen this. Fell asleep and missed Bayonetta. And now you're watching this action-packed adventure. It's Kimazuka. You already know that. We saw it before. Heading to that publishing office. Somehow less reading than Bayonetta. Come on now. Come on now. The taxi stopped outside of Heaven Publishing. The trip had taken 10 minutes on the dot. Thanks. Minorukawa left a 1,000 yen bill on the seat and exited the cab. Sir, the driver called after him. Minorukawa turned back around. Kimazuka was leaning out of the window to point at him. It isn't called work because it's fun, sir. The day will be over soon enough. Just hang in there a little bit longer. The driver finished with a knowing grin. Minorikawa cracked the ghost of a smile. Maybe his spirits had been lifted just a tiny little bit. Thank you, he replied. You're the true friend of the working man. He waved half-heartedly, then headed into the building. I'm hanging in there. Mr. Mino! Chiaki threw herself at him as soon as he opened the door to the editing office. News of the explosion was playing on the television. Why is his face covered in dirt? He got exploded. Minorikawa marched straight to his desk and opened up his laptop. But while it booted up, he tried to get a handle on the current situation. Where are the folks from the loan company? He asked. They're here, Chiaki said. I have them waiting downstairs. Do they know Toyama's dead? I'm sorry. I kind of let that slip. What about Hana? I'm not sure. I haven't heard from her since she called earlier. With a tiny sigh, Minorikawa started typing at his laptop. By some miracle, his 6 pages of the copy were nearly wrapped up. Still, he needed to do whatever it took to see this job through to the end. It will serve as the final tribute to Toyama's memory. He loaded his copy to the DTP software in order to set the layout. Bit by bit, actual magazine articles began to take shape. Then the editing department door swung open. Hey! Snarled the young man who barged first. He kicked over a stack of books. How long are you going to keep us waiting, huh? Honestly, Sagawa, must you be so rowdy? Middle-aged man stepped in alongside him. Are you Mr. Minorikawa then? He added, his eyes fixed on the journalist. He held out his business card. A pleasure to meet you. I'm Asao Ozu from Takarada Financing, a black market lending firm that offers loans at an interest rate above what the law allows. Well known for taking whatever steps necessary to collect what's owed. Its business card slogan, got bad credit, but you need a loan? Call anytime. We'll put together a loan that suits your needs. My deepest sympathies about Mr. Toyama. However, I'm afraid that we do need you to give us back the money we loaned. Despite the polite tone, the threat in his voice was plain. Look, the next month's issue of 4-Star General Gossip is definitely coming out. Can't you please wait for repayment until we have the funds from those sales? Minorikawa asked. That was exactly what Toyama's plan had been after all. Well, we certainly aren't monsters. If the magazine is going to be making you money, we wouldn't mind delaying another month. You really mean it? Chiaki chirped. To clarify, that would be the case if Toyama were still alive. Releasing the next issue is all well and good, but with Toyama gone, so too is the company. That will make full repayment of what we were owed impossible, I expect. And what do you want us to do? Minorikawa asked coldly. How about we just cut to the chase? Growled the younger man, Sagawa. Dig out your ears and listen up. Chiaki recoiled in a panic, and Minorikawa held up in an interposing hand. Knock it off, you're scaring the young lady. A thin smile came to Osu's face. All we want to know is where Mr. Toyama's daughter is. Yeah, that's right. Tell her where the girl is. No way, Chiaki squeaked in protest. Hana's just a little kid. She doesn't have any responsibility to pay back the... Ozu didn't let her finish. Hey there, Dark. How was the stream? We're aware of that. Nevertheless, we'd still like to know where she is. The law didn't matter right now. Guys like this had all sorts of ways to wring out money out of people. It was clear from the looks on their faces that Ozu and Segawa had some wicked scheme up their sleeve. Unless, of course, you would prefer to take on Mr. Toyama's debt, Mr. Minorikawa. You are quite the accomplished reporter, after all. Take on his debts, huh? Minorikawa didn't know how much Toyama had borrowed. But it only took one look at these guys to tell him it was no small sum. How about it? Ozu asked. The way you land scoop after scoop, I'm sure you'll be able to repay us in full before you die. Minorikawa fiercely returned his stare. Alright, I'll take on the debt. I'll consider it. Could you give me some time? Can't we just call it even? Oh, what do we choose? Taking on the debt, that would be irresponsible. Alright, I'll take on the debt. Minorikawa's tone was resolute. But not just yet. Let me finish up this job here first. Very well. I suppose we can wait a little while longer. The two men from Takarada Financing plunked themselves down on the editing department sofa. Mr. Mino, please, you can't agree to something like this. If I don't, these guys are just going to keep threatening poor little Hana. But still, that's none of your concern, he said. What I need to know is, how is your piece on those street interviews coming? But, I mean, those guys, they said it doesn't matter if that issue comes out or not. Don't be ridiculous. When a professional agrees to take on a job, they see it through to the end. Chiaki took his point and scampered to grab the printout of her copy. Minorikawa gave it a quick once-over. He saw immediately that the piece was lacking in structure. He then read the article a second time, checking the finer details. Several off-theme sentences jumped out at him. This is no good, rewrite it. He thrust the printout back at Chiaki. Yes, sir. She bowed her head and retreated to another desk. You good there, Minorikawa? That's a lot of smokes in less than an hour. The TV was still on. A news broadcaster's voice suddenly broke through the silence, as well as Minorikawa's concentration. We're live on the scene now, where an explosion in Shibuya has... Minorikawa gazed blankly at the screen. He found his mind drifting to a particular memory of Toyama. The door looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but Minorikawa didn't care. He pounded on it as hard as he could. Toyama! Oh, the Toyama nameplate popped off and fell to the floor. It was hard to believe this dilapidated apartment was the home of a newspaper editor who worked his way up from reporter. Hey, Toyama, get your A out of here. At the sound of Minorikawa's angry shouting, the other tenants on the floor poked their heads out of their rooms to stare, paid them no heed, continuing to call out. Eventually, Toyama opened the door, dressed in his sweats and undershirt. Quiet down, you moron, he snapped. Come on in. I heard you tendered your letter of resignation at the paper. Minorikawa sat cross-legged on the tatami-covered floor. Tell me why. Toyama corked a lopsided grin. You want to know why I quit, huh? All right, lean in close. Minorikawa peered at him dubiously. Huh? Why? I don't want anyone overhearing this. Resigned, Minorikawa leaned forward and turned his right ear toward Toyama. The man's warm breath against his cheek was pretty unsettling. At first, he had trouble concentrating on Toyama's story. But when the older man got to the crux of the matter, he found himself listening with rapt attention. By the time Toyama finished, Minorikawa was unable to suppress his shock. You're starting your own publishing company? Hey, not so loud, damn it. Toyama shushed him with a finger to his lips. He looked around wearily, as if there might be spies in his own apartment. Right, but a publishing company, Minorikawa said again, more quietly this time. What are you doing for your distributor account? All booksellers were required to use a wholesale distributor to circulate their publications. To do business with such distributor, a publisher needed a specialized distributor account. You're not going to let a company with no track record open a new account with a distributor. I'm sure you must realize that. Toyama grinned, a proud gleam in his eyes. I know. That's why I bought one. You bought one? A ghost account belonging to a publisher that went bankrupt. Distributor accounts could go for tens of millions of yen. There was no way Toyama could afford that on his severance pay alone. He must have taken out a loan in order to make the purchase. But the publishing industry was in a slump nowadays. People weren't buying books much anymore. Starting up a new publishing company was a beyond risky endeavor. And I've already decided on the name of my company, Minorikawa. Toyama's face was positively beaming. Get this. Heaven Publishing. Heaven? That sounds fatalistic. The idea is that the people who work for me will feel like they're in paradise. For all this svetching about keeping quiet, Toyama was now exclaiming pretty loudly himself. I mean, I can appreciate your willingness to take the risk, but surely your wife must have had objections, Minorikawa said. Toyama fell silent. He went and opened up the refrigerator. Minorikawa took a peek inside. Its shelves were mournfully spare, holding little besides beer cans and drinking snacks. The missus left me, took our daughter with her. Those scant few words painted the picture clearly enough. Toyama grabbed a can of beer and tossed it to his guest. But no more sob stories, he went on. He briskly cracked open his own can of beer. Cracking a cold one with the boys. A weak foam bubbled from the top. Cheers, Minorikawa, to Heaven Publishing's big debut. He cast everything aside and was striving for a new beginning. If the man had braced himself for the challenge, it wasn't Minorikawa's place to tell him he was making a mistake. Even if it was an uphill battle, he had little chance of winning. Congrats, Mr. Toyama. Minorikawa pulled the tab on his beer can. Cheers! Two of them clacked their cans together. One year had passed since Toyama founded Heaven Publishing. Minorikawa poked his head into the editing office, a bag from the convenience store in hand. Hey boss, how's business? How does it look like it's doing? Toyama sat amidst a veritable mountain of returned stock, his expression bleak. Returned stock? Bookstores do not purchase the books they sell, but rather take them on consignment. This allows them to return the publisher any books that do not sell. The books were all bulky, non-fiction tomes, not exactly the sort to fly off the shelves. The man couldn't even muster a smile for the reunion. It's been like this for every non-fiction book we've put out. Wow. Starting right off with the bleak stuff, huh? Because things are bleak. The only thing that's selling is that gossip rag of ours. Minorikawa pulled some beer cans from his bag, handing one to Toyama. Toyama lifted an issue of 4-star general gossip from atop his desk. It was Heaven Publishing's one breadwinner, the only thing keeping the company afloat. But the gossip now seemed like it was buried in the red of the publisher's non-fiction release. I really did have higher aspirations than this. Toyama sighed, gazing in disappointment at the piles of unsold books. But here we are, with our gossip magazine as our only viable publication. The beleaguered bookseller chugged his beer. Daddy, I'm hungry. Minorikawa was startled to hear a younger child's voice. He turned around to see a little girl nestled between the stacks of returned stock. Daddy, I don't want to do the taxes anymore. I want to go back to school. That's my daughter Hannah, Toyama said. It's complicated, but she's living with me now. I see. Minorikawa couldn't press for more details with Hana right there. In all likelihood, things with Toyama's ex-wife hadn't been going well. Go on, introduce yourself, Toyama said. This is one of Daddy's work friends. Hana turned to Minorikawa with a bright little grin. Hello, my name's Hana, I'm 6. You want some of this? Minorikawa held out a packet of dried squid he'd bought to go with the beers. Sure. Hana greedily stuffed her cheeks with the squid. Toyama flashed a sheepish grin. You like living with your daddy, Hana? Oh, no, that's Minorikawa. Do you like living with your daddy, Hana? Minorikawa asked, giving the girl's hair a gentle little ruffle. Uh-huh, I do. My daddy's amazing. Oh my god. It's kind of sad from what we've seen from Hana. He runs a company. Toyama let out a tiny, involuntary sob at his daughter's ready praise. I'll keep at it, Toyama said, looking into his daughter's smiling face. Hana is more important to me than any high aspirations I might have had. I'll keep shoveling out copies of the gossip, and at least make sure she's always got something good to eat. Daddy, this is really tasty. Hana held up the pouch of dried squid. Tears welled in Toyama's eyes. Next time, I'll make sure she has some sashimi instead of something like this. Hey, what do you mean something like this? Minorikawa grumbled. I'm the one who bought it. Toyama and his daughter laughed together. It was a heartwarming sight, Minorikawa thought. A father and his girl getting along so well. Toyama might have been a hard-hitting journalist, but when he came home at the end of the day, he was just daddy. It was only natural for the man, as a father, to put his child above anything else. After gorging herself on snacks, Hana fell asleep on the sofa, looking well and truly satisfied. You know, Minorikawa, Hana's happiness means more to me than my lofty artistic ideals ever could. Toyama kept his voice low as he regarded his daughter's sleeping face. And from that day forward, Heaven Publishing had shifted its focus to scandal rags, with 4-star general gossip as its pillar. Had that been good? Had that been for good or for ill? Whatever the case, Toyama had abandoned his pride. Minorikawa had watched him become more and more of a miserable wretch. Minorikawa snapped back to the present as a sheaf of paper appeared in front of his face. "Here you go," Chiaki said, radiating anxiety. Right. Minorikawa gave her copy a close read over, then thrust it back to her. "What did you even fix?" he asked. Could you please tell me what parts are wrong?" she mumbled, hanging her head. "What are you talking about?" "It's just, well, we don't have a lot of time here, so I figure if I just fix the parts that need fixing." Chiaki trailed off in an indistinct mutter. "Is that always how you go about fixing your copy?" Yes." "Then you're never gonna get any better. If someone tells you it's no good, you rewrite the whole thing from scratch. Just making fiddly tweaks here and there is what an amateur does." Chiaki dipped her head even deeper, cringing at the reprimand. Minorikawa let out a tiny sigh. "Look, what I just told you, that's what Toyama told me when I was first starting out. Take notes." Hey, that's enough of that chat. "There were times he'd have me do dozens of rewrites. At first, I thought he was just pushing me around, but after rewriting things over and over, I realized something. There are a whole lot of ways you can write about the same thing, and that's what helped me hone my skills as a writer." Chiaki raised her head back up. "Wow, really? If you can get that, then stick with it. Write your submission deadline as close as you have to in order to write the best piece you can." "Okay, I can do it. I will do it." Finally, Chiaki's face brightened with a smile. "That's the spirit." The woman might have talent, but she hadn't realized it yet. She needed to be able to stick with an assignment, even when things got tough. If she didn't have that kind of resolve, she'd never make it as a freelancer. Throw all your art in the trash. Well, I guess all the emotes have to go then. "Oh, how touching." Usu chimed in, applauding. "I'm almost moved to tears. They'll make a movie out of this for sure. See? We only had been acquainted with that sad sap Toyama. We never knew there was such an upstanding fellow here who was so good at tough love." Minorikawa shot to his feet and pounded his fist on the desk. "That's about enough from the peanut gallery. Hey, hold your tongue." His eyes shone with a vicious gleam. "We're getting sick of waiting here. Segawa, you really are a short-tempered guy, aren't you?" Osu clucked disapprovingly at his underling, then slid a sheet of paper onto Minorikawa's desk. "Nevertheless, I'm afraid we do require a decision now. If you'll just stamp here, we'll be on our way." Chiaki stared down at the document. Is this a bond of recognition? Yeah, that's right. That's what you write when you transfer in a debt. Segawa puffed himself up proudly. Minorikawa silently looked over the contract. "If you don't have a stamp, we'll gladly accept a signature as well," Osu pointed out. "Face it, pal. If you don't hurry up and sign, we're never gonna stop going after Toyama's daughter." Minorikawa snatched up a pen. "Mr. Mino, you can't do this. Think about what you're doing," Chiaki shouted. "If you go through with this, you'll wind up just like Mr. Toyama." "I won't." "Yes, you will." "Just who the hell do you think I am?" I'm Minoru Minorikawa, damn it. I'm gonna land so many scoops it will make your head spin. And I'm gonna pay back this debt and rebuild Heaven Publishing. But why would you take such a risk? Chiaki sobbed. Minorikawa lowered his voice. Because I owe him so much. I can't stand by and let these scumbags kill his daughter. Aha! Before Minorikawa could sign, Sagawa startled him with a sudden exclamation. Looking up, Minorikawa saw what the loan sharks had seen. Little Hana standing by the door. Get her! On it, boss! Osu and Sagawa rushed at the girl. Run! Minorikawa shouted. Hana bolted right back out the door, but Osu managed to snatch her up just as she reached the stairs. Let's be on our way, shall we? A vile grin came to Osu's cruel face as he headed down the stairwell. Stop! Let her go! Minorikawa rushed after them, trying to grab the girl, but Sagawa drove a punch right into his face. Ooh. The pain staggered him. Nevertheless, he managed to press on. Get your hands off that girl. Oh, shut your damn mouth. Something hard slammed into his chest. His vision went dark. He felt himself slipping from consciousness. Just before he blacked out, he heard Hana's voice. I'm sorry, Uncle Minorikawa. Sorry? No, I'm the one who should apologize. But before his thoughts got any further, Minorikawa passed out. Hana gets caught. No! Well, I think I know where. It's right here. Is it here or here? Let's see if we head directly to the hospital instead of calling. Maybe we won't run into Hana. No, we'll run into Hana. Call Rumi then. The phone rang several times before it went to voicemail. The fact that she hadn't picked up made Kino even more anxious. He was still staring at his phone when he got a call of his own. When he peered at the incoming call display, his heart nearly stopped. It was Tatano's name. We already did this. The question is, are we going to run into Hana? Because if we run into Hana again, I don't know where we got what we got to do. I might have to take the hint. So we didn't run into her. I can't skip, so something's gonna happen here. Like, I can't skip at all. Unless it's a bad end. Yeah, there we go. Let me go through that again. They're gonna clap. And just before he was about to sign, that's when we start reading again. Wah, 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 wah. That's about enough from the peanut gallery. Don't do it. But why would you take such a risk? Because I owe him so much. Can't stand by and let these scumbags kill his daughter. Minarakawa read his pen and signed the document. All right, Sagawa cheered. Now we're talking. A satisfied grin came to Osu's face as he reached for the contract. But before he could pick it up, Chiaki snatched it from the desk. I'm not letting you do this! Crumpling the paper, she stuffed it right in her mouth. Hey, what the hell are you doing? He tried to force Chiaki's mouth open. Don't you dare, you beach! Despite his frantic efforts, Chiaki managed to gulp the wad of paper down. Sagawa blinked a few times. Oh, you did not just do that! Osu looked down, dumbstruck. Guess we gotta go get a new contract from the office, boss. Bring as many as you want, Chiaki declared. I'll just keep eating them. Girl, you some kind of goat or something? What is a goat? The mental image of a goat eating paper is a common one, dating back to long ago when paper was made solely out of plant material. If a goat were to eat modern paper, the wad of chemically treated pulp would go undigested and possibly cause an intestinal blockage. So please do not feed paper to goats. Sagawa shoved Chiaki against the desk. Ow! Cut it out! That hurts! As she struggled to resist, Chiaki lurched towards the desk, planting one of her hands on top of the TV remote control. One of her fingers happened to land on the volume up button. The sound of the television soon hit max volume. We have just learned that the explosion earlier claimed claimed the life of one man. While the police have stated that there is a likelihood of foul play at work, they're also pursuing leads that this was a potential suicide. They hadn't been... so as I was saying, we had to let them say the name. They hadn't released the name, but they must have been talking about Toyama. Feeling the impact of his mentor's death all over again, Minorikawa slumped back on his chair, his body languid and lifeless. Still, there was one thing he could do for the friend he'd lost. Draw up a new contract. I'll sign it. Mr. Mino! Don't argue with me. I've made up my mind. Chiaki fell silent. No reneging our deal now, Osu said with a nasty sneer. I do hope you don't get any funny ideas about running out on us. But Minorikawa didn't need the warning. He had no such plans. Segawa slapped a new contract onto the desk. Here, sign it. Minorikawa signed for a second time. Segawa stepped in to make doubly certain that Chiaki couldn't eat it. I do hope you're able to earn enough money to pay us back in short order, Mr. Minorikawa. With a satisfied grin, Osu smacked him on top of the shoulder. Minorikawa stood on the deck as his ship set out across the rolling waves. In order to pay back the loan as soon as he could, he had to quit his financially unreliable career as a freelancer. For over a year now, he's been sailing the seas, tossed by the wind and waves as he went in pursuit of his new goal. But as Minorikawa gazed out over the vast wild ocean, his eyes shone with the self-same gleam that had lit him in his days as a reporter, chasing after the truth. With a pen exchanged for a fishing rod, he sought a brand new destiny. Forge onward, Minorikawa, for the diamonds of the sea, the rare bluefin tuna. Welcome aboard, the man of the sea. I think releasing the name should be alright. There's still a lot they didn't know about Tanaka. The fact that the final stop for the ransom relay was Tanaka's condo implied some sort of connection between him and the kidnappers. They still had no idea what his role was in the abduction. What his role in the abduction might have been. Also, didn't have any motive for why Tanaka would be helping the kidnappers in the first place. By sharing some of what they did know with the public, they might be able to garner some new leads. You'd release the name. All right, then. Without another word, Kuze headed back to the conference room. Are you sure he wouldn't sign? Yes, I think so. He was signing it because he wanted to do one last thing for his boss. You know? Like a final homage. I'll take on the debt so your child won't get kidnapped by sleazy Leica dragons. But if he knows he's alive, well, why would he take the net then? Like, it's not his responsibility, you know what I mean? And they wouldn't steal the daughter if he was still... Well, they probably would. Well, he thought Toyama was the one who got killed in the truck. But it wasn't Toyama. It was Tanaka. Time for Chiaki, the Chiaki moment. Boy, I'm hungry. I could eat a contract. You're surprisingly lucid today. I'm always lucid. What are you talking about? I'm the sharpest man in the West. In the West. It's nice that Chiaki, you know, cares about Minarikawa though. To the point of eating paper that will not be digested. Go woman. We have just learned the identity of the victim killed in the explosion. Shibuya resident and pharmaceutical executive. Shibuya resident? Minarikawa tilted his head in confusion. Toyama didn't live in Shibuya. Once again, the victim of the explosion was a Shibuya resident and pharmaceutical company executive, Mamoru Tanaka. The cause of the explosion remains unknown, and the police are still in the process of following up several potential leads. The site of the incident remains an alarming scene, with relief workers continuing to attend the wounded. The four people in the editing office spoke in near unison. Huh? Who's Tanaka? To be continued. So every story is done? We done it. It's time to scramble. Only 4 stories now. The bananas. Yeah, only 4? Maria is ogre. Oh, Maria. All right. Well, I think that'll be a good time to call it there for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget, we got another stream in 2.5 hours. We've got Pokemon Puzzle League, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. And on that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.